You want to learn how to customize existing .NET MAUI controls with the new handler architecture? You've come to the right place, my friend. Let's go check out how to do just that. As always with my videos, I start off by showing the end result so you know what you can expect from this video. And it's kind of awkward because the only thing that you are seeing here is kind of like this yellow button that you're seeing. That is what is customized for the button on Android. So let's just quickly see how to implement that with .NET MAUI. So for this video, I'm using Visual Studio 2022. You can see it here running on the left. You can see the XAML page of a file new .NET MAUI application, and you can see that running on the right on a actual physical Android device that I've got lying around here. I'm using the Windows, I think it's called Your Phone, to mirror it to here on the desktop, which is pretty amazing. It works pretty smooth. So if you haven't done so already, go check that out. It will greatly improve your development experience. So what I'm going to show you is how to customize existing controls in .NET MAUI by just implement a little custom handler thing. Before, if you are using Xamarin.Forms, you know that you had the renderers and you had to write this custom renderers, which could be a little bit of a pain because you had to know a lot of stuff. You had to implement a ton of code for just one property. That is all behind us now. We can use .NET MAUI handlers to do that much easier. So let's just dive straight in. I'm going to go to the Solution Explorer right here, and I'm going to go to the startup.cs. So this is a new class within your .NET MAUI application. Here everything is configured for like use MAUI app, configure fonts. You can do a whole bunch of other stuff as well, dependency injection, all stuff that I will make videos on. So go check that out. Subscribe right now to be notified automatically. But here you can also register your handlers basically. Now kind of right off the bat, the important thing is that you can do this everywhere. You can also do it in your main page XAML.cs. You can also do it in your app XAML.cs. It doesn't really matter as long as it's like in the code path of the startup of your app. As long as that code is triggered somehow, you can do it that way. So I'm gonna do it here because it kind of makes sense to have it in like your startup class, I think, but you can do it anywhere if that's what you like. So what we're going to do here is add Microsoft.maui.handlers because that is where all the handlers live. And let me actually scroll up here a little bit for you and get this in here. So here you can see all the controls of .NET MAUI. So I can see an activity indicator, a button, a checkbox, all the stuff that's in here, a time picker, a switch, and they all have their own handler. So this is kind of like the equivalent of the renderer, right? But the handler is much more efficient. So if we go back to like the top level, we have the view. So that was before a visual element. I don't think it's called like that anymore. It's now a view. So we have the view handler, right? So if we go into that, we have the view mapper, and the mapper is a property mapper, which is kind of like a dictionary of the view and the view handler, and it will have like an index of the property that you want to actually customize, and then you can assign an action to it with a lambda or a method that will actually be executed whenever that property is changed or whenever something happens there. So we are going to go in that view mapper, and you can see here this little index, so the string key. Now what you would typically do is, if you were to create a kind of custom control, if that's something that you want to see, please let me know down in the comments. I'm going to focus on just overriding the custom controls right now. You would do something like iView.background, and now you're assigning something to this background key, right? And we can here add that action. So this is going to be a lambda right here, and we're gonna get passed in the handler and also the view. And then we do this little arrow thing with a couple of curly brackets, and now we can write some code here in the body that will customize our view. So this is our view mapper. This is like the highest level, and each view will get passed through here. So that's also something that you need to keep in mind. We'll see how to specify it for a certain control in a little bit. But here is kind of a little secret. If you want to customize something like this, this index doesn't really matter. So we can do here my customization, and it will still get called, right? So if you want to make clear to, I don't know, other developers in your team that this is kind of like a custom mapper thing going on, you can just pass in here any magic key, and it will be executed all the same. So here we have our handler, and because we're in a single project, right? So for .NET MAUI, we just have this single project which runs our iOS, Android, UWP, all kind of our platform different things. We're going to run that from a single project, and we still want to reach in here to our platform specific code, right? Because we're going to customize something on the native level, so on the Android level in this case. So that's why you have to have these if Android flags in here, which is called compiler directives. And now the compiler knows, like, hey, we are in Android land for just this little piece. And here I can now suddenly use these Android namespaces here. So if we inspect like the handler that we get in here, this has a native view property, and this native view is of the type android.views.view. And this is the native view for the view handler. So every view gets passed here, and at the highest level, it's a view. So if we just go here and we say set background color, and we can say android.graphics.color, and let's set it to red, so everything will show up red. And you can see that everything will turn up red because every view is going to get passed here. But if we want to do this for iOS, we just basically need to copy this block right here, and we're going to do this here as well. We need to set this flag to iOS. You can see it's grayed out immediately because here at the top at this bar, you can see that we are now targeting Android. And if we do this drop down right here, we can see we also have iOS, we have Mac, we have Windows. So if I do this to iOS, you can see that now the Android bit gets grayed out, and we are here in iOS, and we get the red squigglies because now suddenly we have to write iOS code, right? And it doesn't have a set background because suddenly this native view has magically transformed into UIKit.UIView, and now we have to set something like, I don't know, background color. See, there we go. Of course, you know, you can also divide this differently, by the way. You can also put this Android block here inside of this little body right here. So I'm duplicating this whole block here right now. You can also do this inside of this body, and you can actually also do it without the if compiler directives right here. I'll show you that in a little bit as well. I'm going to focus on Android for now, but just so you know how to do it for multiple platforms. So let's switch this back to Android as well. And actually, let's just save this. Let's stop and restart this for a little bit. So the app should come back up, and now everything should turn up red because suddenly our custom handler kicks in. And actually, so that is all that we did. We already learned how to create this custom handler and override the default behavior of a control in .NET MAUI. Here we go. Our app is coming up and everything is red. So this works perfectly. Now let's take it to the next step. Let's see how we can do this for a more specific control. Let's see how we can do this for a button. Now for a button, it's actually quite easy because we just need to replace this view handler with the button handler. There we go. But if we do, then you're gonna see, like, you can see it grayed out, and then we have this little suggestion that the name can be simplified. That is because we still reference the view mapper here. So if we want to change this for a specific control, you don't want to change the button handler to a button handler, but also we want to change the view mapper to the button mapper because each control kind of has its own mapper. So now suddenly you can see it gives me squigglies because I'm doing this while I'm running this code. So I'm going to stop and restart in a little bit. But now you can see this is turned into a button handler. And you can see if we inspect this native view here, that suddenly this turned into a Android x.appcompat.widget.appcompat button. So we get like the strictly typed things in here, as opposed to, again, if you've worked with Xamarin.Forms, you might remember that you had to figure out what type it is yourself, what do you need to overload here, what's the right lifecycle thing that I'm in. And here you will just say, hey, I want to have this button handler, the button mapper, and whenever you get in here, you can assume that the native view is already instantiated, and you can just start your customization here. So now I'm just setting a background color, but you can write all kinds of code in here, right? So you can make that customization as extended as possible. Now, just to show you a little bit of the difference here, so I have the button mapper now. Let's set this to green, and whenever I stop and restart this one, what we expect to see is that the rest of the interface is back to normal, but only our button now should show up as a green button. So here we go, the application is coming back up. There we go, our button is green. So see, that is how easy it is now. This mapper is not gonna fire off for each view, it's just gonna fire off for a button. So that is pretty cool, right? Now, the other thing that I kind of promised you is how to show you without doing this for the if compiler directives, which I personally don't like that much. But it's not a very easy way. There's multiple ways to do it probably. This is the one that I figured out. So please let me know if you have any better ways so I can learn from you, because I'm here to learn as well. But let me show you what I discovered here. So what you then want to do is, well, let me keep this running so we have this nice little .NET bot going on here. Let's go to our Solution Explorer, let's go to our project, and let's go into our platforms folder. So in our platforms folder, we have a folder for each platform that we're supporting, which holds kind of like the platform specific code, right? So for Android, we still need the main activity and the main application. So actually that is one way to do it. We can just go to, let's just comment out this, and for our sample repository, let's put a little comment on here so you can still find it. Method 1, there we go. But I'm also going to copy like this block of code without the ifdef. Here we go. And I'm going to go to like the main activity right here. And what you can then do, you can see it's nice and clean. Nothing's in here by default in the template. But what I can say is then implement a little constructor here. And I can put in this code, and let me uncomment this. There we go. And here we kind of have the same thing. But now it's in our constructor right here, and this gets called. So now we're here in platform specific code, and you can just do it like this, and you don't need all the if other code and blah blah. So let's just change this to I don't know, what do we have, white. And let's just rerun this really quickly again. So you can see that this gets called as well from the main activity, and you can do the same thing for iOS, but now put it in the app delegate, and for UWP and macOS, you have kind of like the same things. So you can do it like that, and you don't have that platform specific code. So that's kind of like method number 2. The downside that I think this has is that it's not that discoverable. If you're just looking at the shared code, you will go like, hey, I see all my buttons are white, but I don't understand why. And you have to go through like the app delegate and the main activity and all these kinds of things to figure out what is going on, right? So that is not great for this solution, I think. So let's just quickly comment this one as well. And let's put in here method 2 just for a reference. And let me again, well, actually, let's do something different now. So I'm going to go to my Solution Explorer, and I'm going to do 2 things. In the Android folder, so in the Android specific code, I'm going to add a new class, which is my custom button handler. I don't know, you can name this anything you want. Here you go. And I'm going to create that same thing in kind of my shared code. So here we go, add class, what did I name it? Custom button handler. There we go. So let's just add that. And now I have it on here. If we inspect the solution, I have it here in my Android. And because I put it in the Android folder, it only gets compiled for Android. Same for iOS, same for Mac Catalyst, or all the platforms that you might have in here. And this is in my shared code, so this is going to get compiled for all the things. So let's go to the shared code one first. And I'm going to make this a public partial. I think the partial thing is something that you're going to see more in .NET MAUI. A partial class, which means that you can have the class divided over multiple files, basically, which is because I have this class named the same, right, in Android and in the shared code. So I can divide my code between these two things. And what I can say now is also a static method. So I can say static partial void custom handle, right? So this can be anything, right? I'm just making up names here. And actually, because this is in my shared code, this is kind of like the declaring method. So this is just saying like, hey, my method is going to look like this. So this is kind of like a different variation of inheriting classes and making it virtual and overriding it. But now you're doing it with partial classes. Why? Because of like the different platform implementation and this implementation. I hope it will get clear. If not, please let me know in the comments, and I'll make a quick follow-up video on what this is more in depth. And then the same thing, we can do the actual implementation in our Android custom button handler. So here we can have that same thing, and we can say public partial class. So now I think it also has to be in like the same namespace, mind you. So we want to make it like this as well. And here we can say static void what did I name it? Custom handle, right? So this presents us with a problem. Oh, I need to make it partial, right? So what was it? Static, partial, void. There we go. So now we don't have squigglies anymore, and we have this. So this is in our shared code. I will add that for, you know, shared code for clarity. And this is in our Android code, right? And here we can actually implement this. Now, the thing you might note is that I don't put public or whatever in here. This has to be like without an access modifier. So no public, no private, no nothing, which also means that it's kind of private by default. So we can't reach out to this directly. Something we'll fix in a little bit. Now, what we can do here is go back to this main activity, copy this block of code to actually do our custom handling here. So let's just go back to this, uncomment this, and here we go. We're back with our custom handling, right? So let's make up another color here. Let's make it yellow, just so we have a difference between the different methods. But now we want to call this, right? So now we want to go back to our startup basically, and we want to actually say custom button handler. There we go. And here we want to do something, right? So we want to make clear that we're calling something custom, and we're doing that maybe in different platforms. What we want to do then here is create another, in our shared code, create another thing, which is actually public static void, and we're going to handle, we're going to handle, I don't know, we're going to handle it. So there we go. And here, because we're in the same class, we can say, hey, custom handle this thing. And because this is in our shared code, we can always call this, and we're going to have this custom handle right here. And what's kind of cool about this is that whenever we don't have an implementation for a platform, so we implement this for Android, but if we don't do it for iOS, we will still have this kind of implementation that it will call, right? So this is all valid code, but it will not go out to an actual body. So on iOS, this is not implemented, but on Android it is. So on Android, it will execute. On iOS, it will not. Without any further code implementation, without any ifs, without any detecting platforms. And that is a really cool thing. And what we can then do is here in our startup say, hey, I want to handle this thing. And you can see that this is nice and discoverable. We can see that something is going on here, and we don't have to worry about on what platform this is implemented or whatnot. Although I don't really like the partial classes and partial methods as well, I still like them better than all the if things like this and putting those blocks underneath each other. So let's just add this method, where were we, 3 right here. Let's run this little thing, and our app should show up with now a yellow button. And then we have seen kind of different ways how to customize a existing control in .NET MAUI. Here it is, our app with a yellow button. So we've seen a couple of different methods, and that is how we can customize existing controls in .NET MAUI. I've already said it a couple of times before, if you've used custom renderers in Xamarin.Forms, I think you will find this much easier to just override the behavior of just one property, or, you know, execute some code to kind of customize your controls. Of course, like I said, you can do anything with this. I focus now on the background, but you can remove the entry line, the underline under an entry for Android. You can open up, I don't know, all the properties that are not implemented yet, that are not serviced to that .NET MAUI abstraction layer. You can do that like this. Of course, if you want to take it to the next step, you are going to create your actual custom control, which is something that is a little bit more extensive. So if you want to learn about that, then please let me know in the comments, and I'll be sure to make a little video about that as well, so you know how to do just that. Other than that, thank you for watching this video. Please click that like button if you've actually liked this video. And I mean, come on, what's not to like, right? So click that like button. Check while you're there if that subscribe button is already lit up, so you've subscribed to my channel. Ding that little bell so you'll be notified of that new .NET MAUI content automatically, and I'll be seeing you for my next video. Keep coding.